Hello, and welcome to Press Start, the podcast that's everything and anything video games. I am your host, Azure Games, and today we're going to be covering the topic that I'm surprised I'm even talking about, but I've seen a lot of. I saw a long Twitter debate about gaming being dead, and it got me thinking, is it really? Because I don't think so. And I'll go into discussion why I don't think so, give facts and stuff that I found that's kind of interesting. But first, before we get into the meat of the topic, as it's been the past two episodes, I have talked about Final Fantasy 16. Because on the first episode, I talked about how Final Fantasy is starting to lose me, starting to lose my fandom, my fangirlness. My when they come out with a new game, I instantly buy it. And last episode I talked about is like, okay, maybe 16 is pretty good. The story in the first couple hours was actually pretty interesting and had me hooked. But I kept playing it some I kept playing it. I did play it some more after that and realized a lot of a lot of the meat to get people hooked was in that first 2.5 hours. After that, keep trying to play more. It's a big grind. You At least for me, someone who loves Final Fantasy, I've had to push myself to keep playing. The combat is meh, and it's either you can do they have an accessory and item that you can equip called Timely Strikes, or it's like Amulet of Timely Strikes. Puts all your it does all the combos for you. And another bonus of it is when you do have a party, and mostly your dog, it also your dog has commands it can do. Timely Strikes also just automatically has your dog do those commands, so it takes out the micromanaging of controlling a party or controlling another character doing it. And if you unequip it and try to combat that way, it just feels too clunky. There's, I can't say there's a lot with the combat, but there's enough of the combat to where without the timely strikes amulet, it's just feels too much. Feels like you're juggling too much between all the attacks that you can do, switching between islands, and then also having to control your dog, putting micromanaging your dog. So they went the two extremes in both ways and no happy middle. So either way makes combat not fun, which besides the story of Final Fantasy, combat is the other big thing that, that's a big draw because it's supposed to be really good. That's what they've always done with all the Final Fantasies. So there's that, and then the story is meh after the first 2.5 hours. They gave away a big plot point too early before it was supposed to happen. And the game's been out for a little bit, so I guess this is a spoiler for people who haven't played it yet, but it's been out long enough to where I think spoilers are out of the question. You don't need a spoiler warning anything with it anymore. But in the beginning, there's Clive and Joshua, and in the big fight in the beginning, when you're looking at his past, Clive kills Joshua. He becomes Ifrit. Joshua becomes Phoenix, which is already known. And there's a huge fight that happens. Clive kills Joshua, his younger brother, and it eats him alive for a while. And then one of the things you're going at the story point of the story where I was at, you're going back to the place called Phoenix Gate where it all happened. And before you get there, they reveal that this person that you're chasing, this person in a hood and everything that is a fire dominant, reveals that he's Joshua before Clive even gets to Phoenix Gate. So the whole like plot twist, like, oh, Joshua's still alive. gets taken away from you and you don't get to experience it at the same time the main character does. And I feel like that's not good storytelling because with an RPG you want to experience things as much as possible as the main character does. Because in a sense you're becoming that character. You are that character. So the fact that he did it too early just kind of threw everything off. And so far, like that, I can look over. It's just the combat's not fun. It's really hard. It's a grind. You got to push yourself. So I am officially done with 16. I will not be playing it. Final Fantasy has officially lost me. Of any of the newer games, like 17, it'll probably be a while before I play after it comes out. I am looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because I did play the first one, the first remake, and it was good and I enjoyed it. The combat was great. The additional story that they added to it, but any new mainline Final Fantasy, I'm just not gonna play. It's it's sad because I love Final Fantasy. I've been a Final Fantasy fanboy my whole life. But oh well, that's how it goes. Sometimes games just don't hit, which happens. Hopefully they fix it and can make the next ones better. So that is the ending saga of Final Fantasy 16 for me. Now we're going to go into gaming news. Uh it's really hard right now because looking up any gaming news is all talking about it's like, oh, Black Friday deals, oh, Black Friday deals, oh, this is this sale going on. So I had to look a little further back, and there was a rumor going around. It's like I said, that's why I preface it with a rumor, so people don't jump on my dick and say, "No, this ain't real," or whatever. It's just something to talk about. But apparently, with uh, Xbox Game Pass, if it's not as successful as they want it to be, because they've put so much into it, they're buying other studios, putting these games on to Xbox Game Pass free when they release, and they said if Xbox Game Pass isn't successful after this, more than likely Microsoft or Xbox will no longer be a console. They're just because they've put so much into it. They've put so much money and everything that if this isn't successful, I wouldn't say die because I'm pretty sure Microsoft will still have studios and all that, but Xbox, there won't be any more Xbox consoles, which I thought was really weird. If if that's the state of where Xbox is with this, why don't they stop putting all these games for free on Xbox Game Pass? Or keep the games they have on there, but not have all like a whole bunch of new releases go on Xbox Game Pass because they're going to lose money because they've probably made contracts with these studios saying, "Oh, we'll pay you this much to have your game be free on Xbox Game Pass day one, and if they don't get enough new subscribers and all that, and all the people for people to buy it, uh, it's just not going to work out for them." I think they need. I can't say do away with Xbox Game Pass because it's just like with PlayStation Premium or whatnot. It's a great service. You get good bang for your buck, but you can't put every new game or a majority of new games free day one. So if this is correct, if that rumor I heard was correct, uh Xbox needs to figure out what they need to do. They need to change their philosophy, change their game plan, or they're gonna go bye bye. And back in the day, like when Xbox was first starting out, I would say, and the whole console wars were like a big thing. I'd be like, good riddance. Xbox, get out of here. PlayStation, Nintendo, they have the market cornered. They have already so many exclusives, so a big fan base. It was going to be hard for Microsoft to get into it. Plus, with I know for a while there in Japan and in like the Asian countries, PlayStation dominated. Fair they backed to fair they're backed by Microsoft, so I don't think money should be a big problem. It probably wouldn't. Like I said, that's why it's just a rumor. But like over in Japan for the longest time, like in Japan, China, the Asian countries, it was like PlayStation was top of selling. Like percentage wise, I think it was like 80%. Nintendo was like 12 to 16%, and Xbox was 4%. I haven't looked up the numbers now to see if it's still like if it's still that much drastic, but a lot of people over there buying consoles, mostly PlayStation and Nintendo. So Xbox is really relying on, North America and all that to push their sales. And I think Xbox might have been in the front in America for a while as number one console, but I don't know. Like I said, it's all a rumor. Don't take what I said for gospel. I'm just reporting and talking about things I saw that were interesting. But and that they are backed by Microsoft, and if it does go under, I wonder what would happen to all the studios. That's the next big thing. If Xbox does go under, and the rumor is true, and Xbox Game Pass is not successful, I'm wondering what's going to happen to the studios. Will Microsoft just cut them loose? Try to like be like, hey, you can get out of the contract, we're selling you, or whatever. I don't know how that's going to go. Um, and that's really the only big gaming news that I know of, and that rumor that I've heard, what I've seen, and all that. So I guess we'll get into the meat of today's episode. Is gaming dead? It's something that I never thought would be asked. I never thought I would ask myself or ask anybody, is gaming dead? Because when gaming first started out, it was a very like kind of niche hobby. Oh, excuse me. A niche hobby, a niche like. It wasn't very mainstream. There was they were still trying to get in to people's households and getting to be a big thing back in the day with Atari, Commodore 64, the original NES, then the SNES, and it was kind of a Wild West back in the day. Any idea for a game that anyone had was fair game to be made. They didn't really care if it was going to be successful, if it wasn't going to be successful. They just was like, okay, we got to get it out there and everything. It's just like Final Fantasy, because I go back to it. Final Fantasy, you want to know why it's called Final Fantasy? It was going to be Square Enix's, or no, sorry, at the time SquareSoft. It was going to be their last game. The studio was going under. They weren't making any money, making a lot of money. So okay, we're going to make one last game, and they called it Final Fantasy. And it was so successful, it saved them. And that's how it was. Some studios died. Some studios made one last game and thrived and all that. Sega was big back in the day. There was really only one console for the longest time, or company that made a console, and that was, at the time SNES and Super Nintendo. And then Sony got into it by making PlayStation, and that's when everything started to boom. Then with the N64 coming out, gaming just took off and really never looked back. And I can say over the years, I can't say I've ever had a time where I would think it even slowed down. It just kept growing and growing and growing. And then, how do I put this? How do I transition this? And then there was PlayStation 2, which is still the longest running console. guess I should bring it around to nowadays. Or no, back in the day, games had to ship gold. There was no reason, no excuse. A game had to work day one. No issues. You couldn't patch it. If it didn't work day one, it was gonna fail. Even though the internet wasn't very around at the time, so people couldn't be like, "Oh yeah, don't play this game. It's broken. Can't do anything. Soft locks. Game crashes all the time. There's these graphical audio glitches or just regular glitches." And all games shipped gold. Every game was ready to play. Could play from start to finish, no issues. And to me, that was truly the golden age of gaming. Now, nowadays, with the internet and with internet being as widespread and a majority of people having internet, it's much harder. I can't say much harder. Studios have become lazy, and with that, and wanting to, ship out fresh games, get them out so they can start making money, they don't test everything anymore. Games are broken on launch. I mean, Skyrim is the biggest one that people talk about all the time. All the bugs that were in Skyrim, and after multiple patches, did it become successful? If Skyrim came out back in the day when everything had to ship gold, Skyrim wouldn't be a game that has been not remade, remastered time and time again. That's on every console pretty much. It is on every console, I think. And people say, "Oh, Skyrim's such a great game." No one remembers the fact that it didn't work well on day one. I know another one like Anthem. Anthem had so many issues at start. It was a very hyped up game, and it just had too many issues, weren't fixed fast enough, and the game died. I think that right now is the biggest issue. And I'm going to say something that may be insulting to some people or a lot of people, but not everybody. We as gamers are at fault for that. Not at first, not when games first started doing it. That was on the studios. We complained. A lot of gamers complained, were upset, and said we can't let this happen. But here's the thing. We kept buying these games on day one. Even though we knew at the time, or maybe the first couple times, that they weren't going to be fixed. But then after trends started happening, we as gamers still bought the game day one, knowing that now there's a trend that had happened that it wasn't probably going to be fully ready. There's going to be a lot of glitches, maybe a lot of game breaking bugs. You can't fully play the game. You're going to have to wait a couple months before the game's fully fixed from patches. If it was an online games weren't going to be working all the time. Servers were going to go down. And if you did get in, like Battlefield was a good example. Battlefield had so many bugs. Yes, Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's another great one. And it's we as gamers, we keep allowing this to happen. We keep being like, "Oh yeah, this game's really hype. We see all the trailers for it. It looks great. We're gonna buy it," even though knowing that it's probably not gonna work. We are allowing the studios to keep giving us these games broken. We need to stop buying games day one. We need to stop buying games within the first couple months of game releases, in my honest opinion. Because at that point, the studios will understand, oh, people aren't buying our games. And the few that have reported all these bugs and glitches and problems with the game. Maybe we should start working on making sure the game's fully functional and operational day one instead of rushing these games out so we can make money. That's why Baldur's Gate was such a breath of fresh air. Day one, you can play the game from start to finish, never connecting to the internet, never doing anything, and you can play it. No problems. I mean, every game, even back in the day, games still had a few glitches or bugs that you could exploit and, would be weird. But it was nothing ever game breaking. I don't ever remember hearing anyone within the first couple weeks of Baldur's Gate coming out saying, "Oh, this glitch is not making the game unplayable. I'm soft locked. I can't beat the game. I can't progress." You didn't hear anything about Baldur's Gate 3. And it put fair, it's the fan base's fault as to why Cyberpunk came out as it did. Kept wanting to release early, then again, Siege Brothers should have made their release late, very late when they announced it. Although thank God they reworked everything and got everything right a third time. Yeah, I was gonna get the No Man's Sky, and that with Baldur's Gate 3, it's pissed off a bunch of other studios because now they have to be like, okay, this game that's gonna win Game of the Year that everyone loves and everything's like, okay, now we got to start going back to the good old days and making games playable and actually putting in the extra work to make sure all this stuff is happening. Longer release dates, longer development time. More we've gotta pay our employees to make sure the game works. So I'm curious to see how the next couple of years are going to go with new games coming out. No Man's Sky, exactly. No Man's Sky is another good one. Like I said, I was going to get to. There wasn't much to do in No Man's Sky with how open world it was. It was supposed to be you were supposed to be able to play co-op and stuff like that, multiplayer, but depending on where you started, things you could it would took forever to get to you. I don't think there was much fast travel or stuff like that. I played a little bit of it. I didn't play a lot of it, and I haven't gone back to play it since everything got reworked. But now, No Man's Sky, what has it been like 3, 4, 5 years later, has seen a resurgence because the developers listened to the fan base. Fan base was like, "You're right. We should have kept this game in development longer. We rushed the game out. We apologize. We are going to work and fix it." And they did. And I wish more studios were like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next couple years go. Now, to kind of answer the whole is gaming dead, is gaming on a downslide, I wouldn't say gaming's dead. I would say gaming's in a little bit of a slump right now. And I'm going to use for the fact that when gaming has been good, there's been multiple years in a row from let me see. And this is a good way to tell, I think, because it tells you how many good games came out in the year. See when it stops. Or like I think 2005 was a great year for gaming because there was about 40 games that got top reviews, like eight and a half, eights and above. Same with 2004, there was 40. 2003 only had 30. 2006 had 26. 2007 only had 20. That was kind of a down year. 2008 had 24. 2009 had 22. And then 2010 went up to 30. 2011 had 30. 2012 had 30. 2013 had 25. 2014 had 25. 2015 had 30. And then 2016 had 35, 2017 had almost 40, and then 2018 only had 19, but then 2019 had 35, 2020 had 25, and then the past 2 years have only seen about 10 games have above an 8 in rating, which usually is a good indication of saying, yes, this is a great game. So, and I don't know I wish I had an idea or why that is. I think it's because I think what we're seeing is because of this, and now I just pieced it together. I think why the past 2 years have seen not as many games top rated is for the fact that I think studios might be starting to realize something that okay, we can't keep shipping out the same game, having relying on patches and stuff afterwards. So they're not putting out as many games. I know I've seen it over the past couple years. Release dates getting pushed, which is a great thing to hear because it means okay, they're putting extra time into the game. So I, unfortunately I can't see 2023 because it's not over yet. So that's the thing. Yeah, COD exactly. I don't think I think I'd have to go back and actually look through. I don't think COD's in any of these in the past couple years. Maybe when it first came out, but it hasn't been in the past couple. But I think another reason why people might think gaming is dead because, and I hate to say this because it really feels like I'm feeding into the whole stereotype of saying, oh, mobile gamers aren't gamers. And I know a lot of people will be like, that's true. They're not officially gamers. Yeah. I mean, that's how new games are. New games are 100 gigabytes or more. And I'm like, what the hell? But it's because I think another thing I think is what's causing problems is mobile games. And like I said, I hate to talk about this and put it in a way that might sound like I'm shitting on mobile games, even though I kind of will be because a lot of them are just gotcha and money grabs. There's usually no substance in the game. But there has been a dramatic increase in mobile game sales. Like 2019, it was mobile games were 103 billion. 2020, 132, 133. 2021, 148. 2022, 167. 2023, 185 billion. And then we'll compare that to PC gaming. 2019, 29 billion. 2020, 30, 31 billion. 2021, 33 billion. 2022, 35 billion. 2023, 36. And then the console game isn't that much different. 2019, 25, 2020, 28 million, 2021, 28 million. It went down a little bit. 2022, 29.2, and then 2023, 30 billion. Yeah, I think another reason why there isn't I can't say there isn't enough being put enough effort. I think studios are putting more effort into making mobile games because they know the cash grab that's there, and it's taken away from their focus of putting into console and PC games, which is unfortunate because it's unfortunate, but I kind of understand. As much as I hate to say I understand, because more people have phones. There's more words had a big influence because of mobility and accessibility. People, yeah, it is, and I was just about to get to that. The reason why, like I said, I understand why mobile gaming is being big is for the fact that phones, for the most part, when when you get a phone through a carrier and all that, you're not having to pay the full price of the phone right away. You can do a you can pay it off over months on your bill, or depending on do you want to join our do you want to join this carrier? We have a promotion going on to where you can get this phone free for if you qualify and all that. So a lot of times people don't really have to pay for a phone. So it makes it easier for a lot of people to play games on their phone than it is to spend 500, $600 for a console or upwards of, I know there are some budget PC builds and all that that you can get good performance out for $600, but for PC you're having to spend six to $1,000 just to get a budget PC that can play a lot of games. Yeah, yeah, they're with the hardware and software in the phones. Some of them are even better than laptops. Yes, that and consoles, which is mind-boggling. But another reason why I don't think gaming is dead is the whole fact that I think a lot of people are more worried about uh a lot of people, I can't say a lot of people because it feels very weird to say this, but a lot of people only care about AAA games, which is fair. Usually they have a, you know, big studio, a bunch of people backing it. The graphics are usually better, everything about it, a majority of the time is usually better. But the fact now is the day and age of indie games with all these new softwares that are making it very easy um, to make games, program, put all this stuff in. I'm not going to talk about Unity because Unity is going to go the way of the VHS. That's what you game on a phone is the only thing I do for now, which is fair, and I get it. But indie game, there are a lot of great indie games, and a big one that I can point out. I haven't played yet. I want to. I need to get around to. I mean, I probably will now since I'm not going to be playing Final Fantasy 16. Is Sea of Stars. That was made by an indie. That was on Kickstarter. They were they're only a game because of Kickstarter. They were to get the funding they needed to, and probably more, because there was so much hype about the game. Excuse me. But Sea of Stars is a great example. I probably should look up more indie games that have good reviews and all that. But now's the day and age of indie games. And these indie developers are being able, I can't say push out a game pretty quickly, but they're putting out pretty good, high quality, thought out games that you can feel the love and effort and everything that's put into it relatively quickly, more than AAA studios that are just putting out a game. They aren't putting any, you can't feel like, I mean, it's weird to say, but the love, the thought, the effort, and everything put into the game in a lot of these AAA games. And it's sad. And then there's one other thing I want to talk about is another thing that I also saw that needs to be squashed. And at first, when I saw this comment, I can't remember word for word what it said, but I'm gonna summarize it. When I first saw this comment, I thought, okay, this guy's trolling. But after reading a little bit of the thread or debate that was going on Twitter, I was like, no, he wasn't joking. He wasn't a troll. But he said that uh, game studios need to have their own department that that focuses on the demographic of straight white males. And I was like, why? As a straight white male myself, I have had years of that representation of the main character being, a white straight male. And back when I was younger, I didn't really like put two and two together of how exclusive that was to other, races, sexualities, ethnicities, whatever word you want to use. And I didn't think about like, yeah, we play games because they're entertainment, they're fun, but we also want to be represented in games. We want to feel seen as people in games that we enjoy and that we play. So the fact that now we've seen an uptick of main characters being female, main characters being of a different race, main characters of being different sexuality. I personally love it because it's allowing more people to enjoy the hobby that I enjoy as well. Because even if, and not just as the main character, I should also say, and your party, because a lot of times your party in like a lot of games was also, straight white males or straight white females. And even though females at the time back in the day were always portrayed, as I guess the sexist way of, oh, damsels in distress, not very strong, they're always casters. Now they're becoming more uh being able to defend themselves. They're being like fighters, and these classes and things that are supposed to be up in the front can take a hit and not weak. And it's like, why would you want to diminish other people from being seen and feeling represented? Like, I can put a great example. Oh, excuse me. What was it? Tales of uh, crap. What was it? Tales of Tales of Zestiria. That's what it was. Tales of Zestiria. The main character, I can't remember his name for the life of me. You go through the whole game, and he has what's the best way to put it? Because I can't remember what they were called, but it's like a spirit or something that he was able to channel that was could be in your party and all that. And throughout the whole game, like I mean, they've known each other since the main character was a kid and everything. So you would think just playing through the whole game, it's like, oh, they're just very close friends with some of the stuff, how they talk and, poke fun at each other and some of that stuff. But it came out afterwards. I found this out like a couple years after the game came out. And I love Zestiria. It's a great Tales of game. I highly recommend it to anyone getting into the Tales of series. It's very great. But I found out later that the main character and this his childhood friend, they're together. It's never really said throughout the whole game, but the developers came out and pretty much said like, yeah, they're together. The main character, I don't think they actually gave him if his sexuality, if it was just gay or bi or whatnot. And when I found that out, I was like, that didn't that didn't change my thoughts on the game. I thought the game became much better because like, oh, that's so cool. This game is doing something different than what other people are doing. And we should embrace that and allow that and not let the fact that just because the main character, or the character that we like, isn't our race or our sexuality or whatnot, let it deter you from enjoying the game and having and saying the game is a great game. I just think that's just such a old school take and a very, I hate to say it, but very racist, sexist, homophobic take. Because if you're only going to play games that only represent yourself, I get it. But if you're going to diminish the other games that don't represent you as a person, is you you need to just stop playing, stop existing, I guess, because you just outed yourself as a racist. But I guess all in all, that was kind of it is still in the take of is gaming dead? Because if people only worried about that, then yes, to them gaming's dead because they're not being, as a straight white male, they're not being represented. But take homage in I can't say homage. You got like about 20 years of being represented as the main character. Fucking get over it. But I guess all in all, is gaming dead? No. Are we seeing a lull point in gaming? Yes. I have a feeling that's going to change over the next couple of years. Just like with anything popular, anything that a lot of people play, sometimes it just has waves. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's a little bad. but it's still going to be around. Gaming isn't dead. No need to panic. The Hogwarts Legacy, I can talk about right now. It won't have to be later on. I'll because I was about to open up the questions and all that, so I'll take that as your question. My thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. I I'll just say this at first. I was never a big fan of the Hogwarts movies, books, or anything. The whole thing of hating on Hogwarts because was it J.K. Rowling said a bunch of anti-trans stuff, I think it was, and that caused a lot of people to hate it and boycott it and not play it. I understand. But at the same time, I really would have to look into it to see how much J.K. Rowling had her fingers in the development of the game, or if she just gets a little bit of royalties because it's using her IP. But I don't know. People said the game was great. I don't think we should boycott a game, especially if it wasn't, especially if the person who wrote it or whose IP it is didn't, because I don't believe she had her fingers in the game. They just asked to use the IP, send her some royalties. The studio did the whole story, everything without her involvement. I think that's just stupid. Because these people who possibly more likely don't agree with J.K. Rowling and her thoughts poured so much love and effort and time into the game to make it good. If you're just going to boycott something that is only somewhat tied to J.K. Rowling, I think that's stupid. It really is. I never understood the whole thing of why people boycotting it because, like I said, J.K. Rowling didn't make it. She only gets some royalties unless it becomes the amount of harassment people got for playing that game pisses me off. Yes, I agree. Like, don't hate on the person because they're playing a game. People liked the world of Hogwarts, and that's fine. Just because you're playing a game that is Hogwarts doesn't mean you support J.K. Rowling and her statements and all the anti-trans. I don't. I think it was just anti-trans. I don't know if it's any other anti things. Oh, that's right, Pikami. I totally forgot about that. She pretty much didn't she graduate because of the whole harassment she got for playing Hogwarts, if I remember correctly, which is just bullshit. Let people enjoy shit. Now, if J.K. Rowling like made the game herself, was the one who was behind it and hired all these people to make the game, there I can kind of understand where people might have a problem with it, but she didn't. She just gets a certain percentage of royalties because it's her IP and they asked to use it, which is bullshit. Like I have a few content creators who I have in mind that have been waiting for a good HP game and got that, but wasn't allowed to play it for content because it got canceled. It's not what she said the reason why she graduated, but I'm 100% sure, which is very yeah, it's like good HP. You talking about HP Lovecraft? Because if you're not talking about HP Lovecraft, I don't know what you're talking about for HP. Oh, Harry Potter. Man, fuck people. Play what you want. If it goes against your beliefs and your ethics and your morals, then don't play it. If you can play the game, like I said, if the game isn't made by that person who had these issues, then I don't see a reason why. People are just wanting to have a problem, just to have a problem, just to start drama. Like what was it? Borderlands. This was years ago. The head of Gearbox, he got into a bunch of legal trouble, bunch of weird stuff. I think prostitution, pedophilia, and all that because of a hard drive or something that all this stuff on it. And I I I remember hearing all about that. I don't know if he was convicted or if the case was dismissed or he was proved not innocent. Don't quote me on that. But I know that all that was happening. No one ever said anything about, I don't remember saying that they were going to stop playing Borderlands because it was the head of the company. It wasn't the people making the game. It's kind of like the same thing. Like J.K. Rowling is the head of Harry Potter. She owns it, but she wasn't the one who made the game. That's my thoughts on it. All jumbled and all over the place. Yay, ADHD and not being able to keep a string of thoughts together. Any other questions about anything before I wrap up this episode? But long story short, gaming is not dead. If you believe gaming is dead, you are wrong. Play indie games. Also, gamers, stop buying games day one when you know the game's going to be broken. Excuse me. Nothing? Anything? Well, then, I guess that will be it. This will. Mm, I'm going to take that as a no other questions at this moment, which is fine. If you come up with a question, do this every week on Sundays. Oh, Fortnite? I played a lot of Fortnite when it was out, when it was popular, back in still beta, and it was decent for a battle royale because that was when battle royales were becoming big and everything. But I don't know. I'm just not good at building. They've changed stuff like when they changed the fact where if you start falling, you can just automatically take out your parachute. That's kind of when I stopped playing. Because the only way, if you couldn't build, the only way to counter, oh, I'll get to that in a second. The only way to counter people who were great at building and building these like towers and houses in 2 seconds was just to take out the bottom, let it fall, and win that way. But once they took out the fact that you can just deploy your parachute while falling, I was like, I'm done with Fortnite. What is my opinion on emulator and emulations of games? Older games. I am 100% supporter of emulator and emulations of games if they were, like, I would say right now, PS3 and back, from games and consoles of the PS3 and back. And why do I say that? PS4 is still, I can't say popular, but it's still around. Games are still being made for both PS4 and PS5. I don't know what the names of the Xboxes are, but the two recent Xboxes, games are being made on both of them. But with PlayStation 3 being with the older consoles being harder to find, and older consoles games being harder to find in good condition to be able to play, these people that had the game, yeah, the ones that have the game that is in good condition, that they've taken the code off, put it on to their computer, and made an emulator of it, I support 100%. I think the only company that's had a problem with emulators and emulations is Nintendo. And I don't understand why. Okay, I maybe do a little bit because, like, okay, it's their IP, but these games haven't been out in years. You're not remaking all these older games or porting them to the newer systems to be able to play that. And right now, like this day and age, also people are wanting to go back and play retro games. People are wanting to go back and play their childhood. People are wanting to go back to their childhood games that they loved and enjoyed and teach them to their kids who are their kids who are getting into who they want to get into gaming and be like, hey, this is what dad used to play or this is what mom used to play. Retro gaming is big. The fact that Nintendo just wants to give a big middle finger to these emulators and shutting them all down and doing a cease and desist is just stupid. And I say to Nintendo, if you're gonna with you have done this, make all the old games from your consoles, put them, make ports of them, and put them on the Nintendo eShop. And if you're not going to do that, fuck off and let these people put their emulators back up. Because I'd love to play old Nintendo games. Like one of my favorite games, and for a while, I mean, even to this day, I still use the email address. Uh, uh, Skies of Arcadia, the main character Vice. I've used that name in a lot of my emails and stuff like that, and that's just such a great game. Yeah, I don't understand why they did it. It's just stupid. Let these people put out emulators, put out emulations of your games. I do understand why Steam didn't let Dolphin onto, I think it was Dolphin, onto the Steam store because they understand Nintendo might come after Steam for letting it on there because Dolphin is a emulator for old Nintendo games. But just let them do it. The fact that, I mean, Nintendo will always be around, but the fact that you have done this and be like, no, fuck you, take down these emulators is bad PR for you. Let people play these old games, let people showcase these old games. And if you're not going to, make a bunch of ports of these games and put them on the Nintendo eShop on the Switch. I would use an emulator and play old games. Apparently, though, I'm very stupid and very smooth brained that I don't understand, even looking at guides and everything, of how to, set up an emulator, where to download the games, the ROMs. I still have not been able to get one to work. I'm a big, stupid, dumb cat that no can make internet work. But yeah, that all in all, that'll be it for today's episode. Gaming dead? No. Play indie games. Give it a couple years. We're just seeing a small lull. We're at a huge wave in the next couple years. Get ready to enjoy it and get ready to see a boon in games. But thank you all for coming. Thank you all for stopping by. Stay tuned next week, every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be doing these live on Twitch. And I think the next 2 weeks, if the next two episodes everything goes right, I might have a special guest on each one. But everyone, y'all have a good rest of your night, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.